Find some seats, folks. Come on in. All right, fantastic. Chris? Mic check, Chris. 1, 2. Sounds good. Was that a thumbs up? We're good. All right, fantastic. Settle, class. Woo! It does feel like school, right? All right. Wow, there's a lot of you. Thanks everyone for joining in. This is the Oz DeFi Association September 2024 event, which is crazy considering we started in a year that ends in 1. So 2021, late 2021, we got started, and it's just amazing the journey that we've been able to see the industry kind of go through. Before we begin, I'd like to pay my respects to the elders of this land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. We usually start off with these things and see who it's their first time to an event like this. So if it is your first time, please put your hand up. No harm will come to you. But, you know, it's fascinating because you see the space growing because there's always a new influx of people coming through. And even during the bear market, when it was all about FTX collapsing and what's the next thing, where's the contagion happening here and overseas, it's always been interesting to see that the event space has always been so strong. So well done, everyone. Thank you for that. QR code obligatory, goes to a link tree. If you haven't seen all the Oz DeFi links, there's the Luma event page, which you would have signed up on. There's the website. There's a whole heap of other things like Twitter, YouTube, etc., etc. This is going live onto YouTube right now. So if you do ask audience questions, we've got some mics we'll run out to you. And just come see me after class if you've said anything that you're like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. It's happened once in Melbourne. It happened once, and it just takes a little bit of editing. But this is live, so just please, you know, fair warning and stuff. All right, we're going to go through a bit of a thing today where I'll do an update of what's happened in the association and across the space over the last month since we last spoke. Who came along to the Oz DeFi event in August, early August? There's a few of you. We had some really great speakers there, some thought leaders, some folks that work with Vitalik currently and in the past, written white papers with him. There's a replay of that. So if you go to YouTube off the QR code, you'll see all that, but we'll share that later again. Chris, if I could go to the next slide, please. The clicker that we usually have, just it's too far for here. So, you know, this is the manual clicker. It's AI. We'll go to the next one, please. And we thank our main sponsors, OKX, for this one. So we'll speak to Jamie up on stage soon. So Audrey Tang and Glenn Vale, they were up on stage last month and giving us all about details about plurality. So this collaboration of different technologies, it's blockchain, it's AI, it's data analytics, it's bringing all this kind of stuff together in a way that is better for democracy. So really interesting insights that they shared. I even had to, and I think I understand a lot of stuff. I had to run it through AI to just make sense of it. You know, you do that thing. It's like, explain this to me like I'm 5, because that's the level at which I need to start off with. But really great talk. So I've got to find where that file is, and I'll actually put that one out. Arturo on the left there, and then Audrey and Glenn. So some really great, insightful, big thinking kind of stuff about our future of finance, future of commerce, future of democracy. Next, please. AFR Crypto Summit. Who went to that from the room here? A few of you. Good to see you guys again. Who here that went to that was positive about it? Yeah. Okay. Well, it was interesting. I mean, you look at there were AFR papers, and this is not the AFR, they're just the report. They're reporting on this kind of stuff, right? So the headline article was crypto startups should be licensed ASIC, and that's on the tables. So I thought it's like a nice thing to take a photo of whilst we're up on stage. They did quite some interesting, conversations. We had ASIC talk along with others prior to having people that were affected by ASIC up on stage next. So whoever had figured that out has really great comedic timing. And so, we had some interesting talks about digital assets in the future, tokenization, real world usage, really great stuff. But looming in the background was this like regulatory cloud. If we go to the next slide, please, you can see some of the other speakers. Yeah, so I mean, on the left-hand side, you've got Drew Bradford, formerly of NAB. He's now the chairman for Cloud Tech. He's also got something called Katina, which is a stable coin. So there's Katina, there's Ubiquity, which is also related to Cloud Tech. There's AUDD. So all the people complaining that we don't have an Aussie dollar stablecoin, people are building this right now, which is great news, because it just means we don't get hit by FX. We can do more digitally native things. Australia is a great place for payments. It's actually even hard to do blockchain things because we've already got a great network. But anyway, it's great to see that we've got innovation happening. But that article, true to point, because there was literally a fire alarm. So we had ASIC, then it was Fred, Amy Rose, and others, Kate from Zodia and others. And whilst Fred's talking, the fire alarm was going off. And it was just, I don't know, maybe if ASIC pulled it, that's what Fred postulated. It could have been. If we go to the next one, I think we might even have a video of it. And just play that one, Chris. It gets louder.
That's what the message is in Australia. Let's go and sue the Wright brothers. I tell you what, let's go and sue Burke and Wills as well.
Let's go sue Burke
and Wills. If they found some real estate, that's probably a security. And you know what? We should definitely sue Henry Ford, because you know what? The horse industry is definitely not got a license to him.
I think the host said anyway. No, I'm just joking. No, Fred was very passionate about, his. Oh, sorry. Let's not play that again. There we go. Fred was very passionate because he, had been affected by that. Finder had their earn-ab. Block Earner also had an earn-ab. Both went to court. Both won. It is on appeal, so ASIC's now appealing the original decision. So we'll see what happens there. What they did say was that they do this, and there was a question from the audience online where it's like, do you think ASIC, Commissioner, that this is a good use of Australian taxpayer funds? And look, the answer is like, yes, because this is a way that we can figure out there's regulation, and you can't have regulation unless it's tested. And he's not advocating that, hey, go break the rules so we can test regulation. No, it's that there is a need to do this kind of stuff. Now, was the appeal overboard? Subjective, but I think that it's definitely stifling of innovation when you see stuff like this. I mean, we used we put together like a summary. I wrote a whole heap of notes. You can see a lot of stuff from the AFR. Crypto News covered it, CoinDesk, etc., because it's a really big thing. But they want regulatory clarity. We spoke about investment strategies, diverse approaches, etc. So there was that for the investment part of the community. People are very bullish. talks of Bitcoin going to 100K versus a million versus 250,000. In any case, it's going up. That's the key message there. Tech advancements, people talked about tokenization and other kind of blockchain projects happening in this space. It's not just investments. It'll be ubiquitous in a way. People won't even realize that blockchain is the reason why you've got money straight away that your grandmother sent you when you're stranded overseas in somewhere in Nicaragua, for example, and you've got nothing else but just an internet connection, but now you've got money. And the political landscape was discussed quite a bit, given that we've got the election in less than 90 days or so. So, and obviously there's a big ripple effect from that. And funnily enough, Ripple's offices in Australia are right next door. So poignant. Next slide. Token 2049. Who went to Token? We'll get, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Hugh. It's what he was saying there for folks that can't hear it on camera. It's the productivity message. Like, how does blockchain actually help with productivity? How does this technology actually move things forward and make life better than it tomorrow and today versus when it was yesterday? So thinking about that, that's a really key message. Nigel Dobson from ANZ spoke about this on stage as well, saying that he's seeing really interesting use cases. Australia's a clever country for a reason. We've got very good use cases. We hear a lot more of the negative than the positive, and it's good use cases that will shine through. So very, very good point, Hugh. Token 2049, who's just come back from that? Not me. Okay, a few of you, yep. Still hungover? No, all good. We'll talk about that on stage later. Who wanted to go to Token 2049 and got FOMO? Yeah, yeah. It was interesting. I went last year, and it sounds like there was a lot more interesting. There was a lot of interesting stuff going on still. And we'll hear about it later. Tim will talk about that in a little bit. We'll go to the next slide. You can see some of the Aussie crew getting together. Oz DeFi in Perth ran an event. It says June. That was actually in August, so my bad on the labeling. Good work, Mark. But yeah, we had, there's something called the Vitalik and Ethereum story coming out. And the guy that's produced that was over there presenting. So worth keeping an eye on that one. We'll go to the next slide, please. Chris and I do a blockchain and AI podcast. It's definitely been more AI lately, but we will talk about blockchain when there's like some projects that we've been working on coming out there in tokenization in stablecoin land, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, every week we talk about latest ins and outs of AI, fun stuff, and whatnot. So Digital Nexus, thank you very much for that quick plug. We'll go to the next one. We'll get to the presentations. So we will do all of this. We'll finish up probably around 7:30 or so. There's more networking, the most valuable thing for all of this, especially if you just come, this is your first time or you come from another country, etc. It's the networking thing. So please stick around for that. But with that, could I get Jamie up on stage? You get to choose a color mic. Now there's repercussions for what you choose. Oh, you chose orange, Chris. Yeah, yeah. No, orange is fine. We're good. Turn it on. Test.
Hello.
There
we
you
go.
go. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I should start off with, how was Token?
Token was great, and you know, it sounds like if the AFR conference had anything to go off, I would have rather have been in Token than AFR. I think it was the biggest Token I think ever this year that I've been to. I think I was speaking to Alex, and he was saying 20,000 tickets sold for Token this year. So yeah, I think it has sort of become, you know, I've been going to Token for a while now, and it sort of started out as the, you know, Asia's premier crypto Web3 event. I think it's now becoming sort of the world's premier crypto
Sounds like it.
event. I think a lot of that has probably moved. Like Consensus used to be the thing you go to, but sort of with what's happening in the US, Singapore has become like a very vibrant hub for people to go to.
Did you? I mean, you obviously survived. You're here. You're not
I
AI.
did.
This is real, Jamie.
I did.
I
I did fly back yesterday morning though, so we'll see how much I survive.
Okay, okay, fair enough. But I was going to say, what were some of your biggest takeaways from, apart from the vibes? And it sounds like there was a lot of people that were there, and the culture is always a great thing in this space. But what were like from a business perspective and just like overall crypto perspective? Did you have any like things that you're like, wow, that's a really key thing I need to remember to say on stage at Oz DeFi?
I don't know if I have anything that poignant. No, I think big takeaway coming out of that is certainly a lot of the industry is back and is building again, despite maybe a bit of a sideways crab market. It's, I think, less about the price action now and more about what are the projects that people are building on chain. There are a lot of projects and a lot of protocols there. And also a lot of VCs as well, VCs and projects as well. A fair few around tokens. So I think probably the bigger takeaway is the community, I think, is more vibrant and bigger than ever, despite what maybe the price is necessarily reflecting.
That's interesting because whilst the price is where it is, which is kind of telling, like, I mean, a lot of things are very correlated with Bitcoin, which is actually quite correlated with tech companies. So it's seen as like this traditional kind of tech play that we've been used to. But given, you being over there, any interesting celebrity spotting?
Interesting celebrity spotting. Well, it depends if you're talking about normal celebrities or not.
Oh, we mean crypto celebrities.
Crypto celebrities. Well, Vitalik came and spoke at the OKX offices.
Spoke or danced or sang?
He spoke, and he spoke very fluent Mandarin as well.
Oh,
I was very impressed by. To be honest, I'm not the best Mandarin speaker, but even I lost a little bit of where he was going with some of his answers to questions. So Vitalik was around, and he obviously gave a keynote speech as well, particularly focusing on things like self-custody, some of the Ethereum improvements. There were the usual crypto Twitter people as well, if you could count.
Oh, like Mario Nafal and
in his wild party, yeah.
Yeah, I heard some of the parties went a little bit crazy, and I saw some photos and videos which made it look very, let's call it like bull market Wall Street 1990.
Yeah. Some of those.
Yeah. Oh, there was a whole Iggy Azalea drama that she didn't get to show her dance, so to speak. But did you? I mean, apart from Vitalik and the crypto Twitter people, were there people from like, because we're here in Australia, we're an island, and it's so far away. We see a lot of these people that are like well known in the space, building overseas. Did you get any interesting kind of meetings with folks that you'd only ever just seen online, but you got to meet for the first time over there?
Oh, I can't say I did. I think it was definitely, or at least for me and the people, maybe it was more an indication of coolness of the people I was hanging out with. We're definitely much more in the crypto space. Yeah, if you hang around, you can. One of us made it into the Iggy Azalea party. You can talk about that later.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, definitely ask after Jamie's had a few more drinks. Or Tim.
Not me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not me, sadly.
Oh, damn. And just one more thing for now on token, because we can always go back to that. But, it's really interesting seeing the different kinds of projects. We spoke about RWA token, or real world asset, tokenization projects, because I went last year. I was FOMOing this year. So, old man shakes fist at cloud. The cloud is token. The old man is me. But it was really interesting last year what the theme seemed to be. Did you see anything interesting or new in terms of types of projects that are affecting the real world that stood out for you?
Real world asset tokenization, I think, again, has been a bit of a theme. The other one, of course, to mention was that it wasn't just token that was on that week as well. So there was Solana Breakpoint later in the week, I think Friday, Saturday. So there was a big Solana crowd there as well. And earlier in the week, there was actually the stablecoin standard, I think Monday, Tuesday. So I think the stablecoin discussion has sort of also ramped up a little bit as well. I think, each year, more and more people keep talking about stablecoins and its ability to do things like, improve cross-border remittances and improve FX. And
fantastic.
I think that was also probably a bigger trend coming out.
Okay. Regulation, not so much.
Regulation, yes. But I mean, I feel like regulation is sort of a trend at every conference that we sort of go to. At least it's been a recurring trend for the last 3 or 4 years.
There was no regulation after party. That's when you know it's really a bull market.
There was no regulation
Okay.
after party, no.
Okay.
But I think Singapore's an interesting case in that it does have a licensing framework. So I think if you look at the Singaporean market, for them, they've sort of had that debate, done the industry consultation and sort of resolved that already. And I think that's partly why you do see a lot of people going to Singapore as well, and a lot of projects sort of moving to Singapore. I spoke to a few people who are moving to either Singapore or Dubai, another country with a regulated framework.
And another country that does a token event.
Another country that does a token event. Oh, Singapore didn't get flooded away.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. If you saw it through Telegram and whatnot, folks, there was a lot of like swimming cars during Dubai. For the one time it floods, it's not built for water like that. Just like Sydney's not built for, I don't know. Anyway, let's go back to the questions that we had set. Sorry for going off topic.
That's right.
But Arturo is not here, so someone needs to go off topic.
Okay.
What are the benefits? Like, let's talk about DeFi versus CeFi. So decentralized finance versus centralized finance in this concept of bridging the gap, right? What do you think are the benefits of using DeFi compared to CeFi from an end user perspective?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I guess this is called like the Oz DeFi Association. But a lot of the sponsors are centralized businesses and sort of centralized exchanges. And obviously, we're also I don't know if many people know this, but obviously we're centralized, but we also have a very large sort of decentralized sort of arm of the business. So it's quite an interesting one for us as well, because in some ways we're building a product that is going to make our current core product a little bit redundant, and sort of build that sort of CeFi, maybe not redundant, but there is a big overlap there. Like I think it's pretty obvious. One of the challenges that DeFi has, I would argue, at the moment, and I think some people at Token were looking to really try and solve, is just the user experience aspect, right? Like, going up and setting up your seed phrase, and what happens if you forget this? How do I get that back? Have I lost all of my assets? So I think centralized exchanges in some way provide a level of certainty to users. You've got like a customer support team; they can help reset the password. You don't have to worry so much about sort of custodying your assets. I think on the flip side, though, like if you are more onto the self-custody side and sort of looking at where a lot of the, I guess, boundary pushing is happening in this space, a lot of that is happening in DeFi, right? So it just moves, just at a rapid pace of knots. So I think I think ideally there's a mix of both.
Yeah.
But that's probably how I'd see it.
I kind of see it as, I only came into the space in terms of work in like late 2021, right? Before that, I kind of watched and go, oh, that's kind of funky NBA Top Shot. Oh, that's kind of cool Bitcoin kind of thing, going up. I didn't really see it. But it wasn't until you lift the hood and you see what smart contracts are. Oh, this is automation. These blockchains, wow, I can lower costs versus the real world in terms of doing stuff. I mean, we did a project which had digital escrows there, which are far cheaper to do on a blockchain than you could in the real world, because lawyers, bankers, accountants involved, and not easy. Or there are separate services. There's the fintech kind of version of the world. Not everything goes through the banks, but it was really expensive to do compared to what you could do with blockchain. So there is a lot of like interesting use cases. But the problem I think the decentralized kind of finance space has had is that you're going up against existing systems. And so I think this kind of concept of how do we bridge the gap is quite interesting, because you can't expect end users to just see everything and see the light that you guys obviously all see here because you're here, and then just immediately change how they do things. So some things will happen like that. We've had Uber moments, we've had other big moments like that, but it's not just going to happen naturally. And in some cases, we need to coexist. So on that note of coexistence, do you think we can exist long term, or will one dominate the other? What do you think?
I mean, I think I've always said this, and you can sort of see the ecosystem play out a little bit as well, but the whole centralized, decentralized argument has sort of moved on a little bit from the early, like, Bitcoin sort of maxi days, right, of decentralize everything. I think you probably see a spectrum of different thoughts and ideologies, and you can sort of see that in sort of some of the different projects that come out. Some have a much more decentralized, way of working than others, and there's always a trade-off, right, between centralization and decentralization. I think people still keep talking about this blockchain trilemma of sort of speed, security, and third one, Decentralization.
I think.
And I guess there is sort of something for everyone. So yeah, I do think sort of this decentralized ecosystem can exist in the centralized ecosystem. And it was something that sort of Vitalik was also talking about when he sort of gave his presentation in our offices. I think at one point you're going to get to a stage where there is no CeFi, DeFi, right? So it is just the product, and the user, like the end user, interfaces with the product without sort of really understanding, or to be honest, really needing to care about how the underlying mechanism is working. They just have their app, they download the app, they sign up to it, they get to start using it without needing to sort of understand the intricacies of some of the operations. People like you and I might really care about that. I think for the vast majority of users, they just kind of want to use a really cool app.
I agree. I kind of find it funny that some arguments against like this whole kind of DeFi space, or the apps that are on these kind of rails, they're like, well, I need to understand it and stuff. And it's just like, but you don't even understand how Pay2 or the NPP, National Payment Network kind of here works and stuff. But we're overly critical of the new tech, and rightfully so. I mean, we hid in caves when saber-toothed tigers were outside. Some of us went out and we don't hear from them again. Their bloodline's lost. But, there's a good reason to be cautious in ways. But at the same time, I think we naturally just innovate. And we're seeing the same thing in the AI space. We'll see the same thing when quantum becomes a real big thing. And, we'll have the Australian Quantum Association soon, I'm sure. But you're absolutely right on the spectrum thing. So I guess it depends on the use case. Because I could see some scenarios, and please tell me your thoughts on this, but where you have the exact same thing running in terms of what it does for the end user in a decentralized way, but then corporates wanting to use that need a more centralized and private blockchain kind of way, and both are fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like maybe 5 or 6 years ago we had the public-private blockchain debate, and that sort of faded off a little bit. But yeah, realistically, at the end of the day, it's what is the technology that can be built on chain, and how can you use it? I mean, I think there will probably always need to be, maybe this is the wrong crowd, but there will probably always need to be a place for some level of centralization, because we do live in sort of at least in the sort of governed society that we live in at the moment, there will always be some element, I think, of centralization, despite perhaps sort of where a lot of the foundations of crypto came from.
Yeah, I think it's just that balancing. There's a phrase in terms of building in this space where it says something like, you decentralize until it hurts, so as much as you can, and you centralize until it works, because completely decentralized has been hard to make run on everything. I mean, and there's arguably things that are just very decentralized and they are working fine, but try to port that to other use cases and it's not necessarily the same. I think the end use does provide the context for how these things should work out. But given where your role is at OKX, you guys are an exchange, how do you see exchanges adapting to the role of the growing popularity of DeFi protocols now that, things are coming back? And you mentioned a little bit that you guys, there's more to OKX than just the centralized stuff.
Absolutely. So, this is not a shill, but it's quite interesting. So Star, who's our CEO and founder, has said a number of times that he believes that sort of self-custody is the way of the future. And there's ways to do self custody, I guess, that are sort of complementary with some of the requirements of operating in a centralized world. If you look at things like KYC and AML, that's a pretty big issue, I think, for most governments, and they're not sort of going to let you just have no KYC and no AML. But there's still ways, for example, to achieve custody while still having this sort of KYC AML protections, which is sort of something that we do in our product. That we've sort of built like a smart wallet, which is based on account abstraction. So if anyone knows about the IP 4337, and what that does is, because we're a centralized exchange and we have your KYC, we effectively allow you to self-custody your assets and to play in the DeFi ecosystem, but we still have that KYC, and we let you, play with fiat, for example. So you can slowly build up this stack where you go from TradFi, banking, into CeFi, into DeFi. You can sort of do it all very seamlessly. Whereas I think at the moment, that is part of the UX issue, that, to get more people into DeFi, it's not the easiest journey.
It certainly isn't, and I know it's been getting better. Is there anyone here who loves the UX experience they have in Web3? One. Okay.
Right.
Or half, because you can put your hand and pull it fully up. So you're absolutely right. Like, I think it's quite telling that there are certain things that we can and will do better. And there's even technologies that we're still not really using. I mean, think about it this way, folks. Like, ICO phase, when, I don't know, 2017, 2018, people were getting not scammed, kind of scammed in a way, because they were doing a lot of sweat equity, and it wasn't written into the smart contract. It was just a promise that they would get a certain amount of vesting. We weren't even using blockchain tech then to lock in that, yes, as soon as this other wallet gets funded, you will be promised. It's not even a promise. It's like you're guaranteed that you're going to get those funds. It's like, that kind of tech. So I still think that there's a lot more that we can improve, but there's hope for that. I think there's a lot of other kind of benefits. So great to see that, you guys are doing that. And we'll show some more slides, and, you can talk to Jamie and stuff after this. But going back to the regulation, the R word, this is R rated. How do you see regulation kind of impacting both CeFi and DeFi in this space? And not just from Australia. I know it's like we spoke about that, but just overall.
I think a lot of governments are actually getting pretty good at sort of grappling with some of the challenges in the CeFi sort of space. I think that's been pretty clear for the last couple of years. Globally, sorry, just disregarding perhaps what's happening in Australia. What I'm not so sure about is how much of a grasp they've got on DeFi. And to be honest, I think that's because this space is moving so quickly, right? Like, what I sort of knew and imagined a DeFi to be last year is actually pretty different to what it is this year. And so, policymakers are always playing a catch-up game. And I was a policymaker, so I feel like I can say that. But, it's a good 12, 18 month lag, I think, on some of these things. And 12 to 18 months in crypto is a really, really long time. So I'm not sure we've quite gotten there yet on DeFi. I think, and it's probably a smaller ecosystem compared to the CeFi side of things, which is sort of where the focus for a lot of regulators has been on. I think they'll want to try and really solve that problem first before tackling the next challenge.
That's totally fair. And you see, it's not just regulators, former regulators coming into, the traditional kind of, the startup and, the non-regulatory space, but the commissioner for ASIC, I think he's the commissioner, Alan, who was on stage, he went the other way. So he's gone from, I think he was a Choice before, if you know the consumer advocacy group Choice, and gone into that ASIC kind of role. And obviously crypto is not the only thing that they take care of at ASIC, it's other securities investments. But it is interesting going both sides. But I think it's good in a way, like despite what we saw yesterday, it's good to have someone who sees the other side. I think, what's that guy, the SEC dude, Gary? Yeah, I mean, that's the opposite example. The dude taught on blockchain and is so anti it, it seems like. You know,
he taught on Bitcoin, and I think he's,
true,
he's
yeah.
clear with. I think he's very clear about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He's maybe one of
actually, that's a good point. Yeah.
But some of the other ones, less. I think he's probably less sold on.
I think, you know, it's interesting just to see perspective and stuff there. It's not a lifer that's been drilled into them since they were 5 years old that blockchain is bad. Although if anyone is doing that to their kids, yeah, please don't.
I think, sorry, I was gonna say, I think it probably another interesting one, I suppose, for us to think about is, you know, if you want increased DeFi adoption, it's going to have to start bumping up against some of the TradFi rails. Until we go fully on chain and our ecosystem is fully on chain, you're still going to need to deal with things like fiat. So you're going to still need to deal with on and off, right? And that's for banks, a highly regulated space. So until, you know, we sort of move to an on-chain sort of world, I think regulation is going to be pretty hard to avoid.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll see, you know, definitely watch this space there, and hopefully we don't have more fire alarms pulled. We're lucky we're okay so far. Final question, and we'll get to some audience questions because we've got time. So think about some stuff while I ask this, folks. But what role do you think exchanges can play in terms of bridging the gap between DeFi and CeFi users?
Look, I think at least for us, we sort of see ourselves fitting in as more of a less of an exchange, I guess, in some ways, and more of a technology platform. So we just want to be the platform where you can come and you can go do your things. I think there are some inherent benefits for us being an exchange. We sort of act in some ways as the gateway into the DeFi side of things. You know, you can fiat in onto the exchange, convert it into crypto, and then head out into the DeFi ecosystem. I think a lot of exchanges are also probably trying to solve the custody problem as well. So, you know, not having to still self-custodying, I guess, but not as risky as sort of like seed phrase custody. Again, it's sort of a spectrum, right? So there's like the full-on imprint my seed phrase onto metal cards and bury them 10 miles underground, to sort of, okay, maybe you want to work with some sort of key sharding solution, right? Where an exchange holds a third of your key, but they can't move any of your assets because you hold the other 2/3. So I think for us as an exchange, our view is more like, well, we are sort of the gateway to on-ramp the next, I don't know, million, 10 million, 100 million users onto DeFi. And just to make that, well, we're one of the many, I guess, players trying to solve that UX experience as well.
Fantastic. Questions, folks? Put your hand up and I'll run out to you with a mic. Tim, 1 second.
I guess my question is, at a fundamental level, the difference between DeFi and CeFi, because when you look at the whole banking system, and I will declare that I used to be a corporate banker many years ago in corporate finance, the biggest issue is that essentially with any lending that we're doing, we're essentially glorified pawnbrokers. We take an asset, it's smart, you know, we put a smart contract against it, and that asset is LVR, or loan to value, maybe 40, 50, 60%. And that's as far as we've gone. How far away are we, do you think, from any form of reserve banking type of ideas, right, within DeFi? Because that's where the gap is going to be bridged, because DeFi cannot replace CeFi until that problem is solved.
Great question. I think that was PAWN, folks, pawnbrokers.
Yes. Frankly, I think we're a long way off that happening. And yeah, I think we're a very, very long way off that happening. I think central banks in general and prudential regulators will probably have a lot of say in any sort of system that moves kind of that direction. You know, if you sort of look at how regulators have responded in the last 8-9 years, it has sort of been let them sort of experiment and play around a little bit. But if we get to a scale where we're doing some sort of on-chain sort of reserve banking, it's a we are very concerned kind of question then. I don't know if anyone remembers Facebook's stablecoin.
One Libra or DM?
Yeah, both. But the original one and the rebranded one. I think I was in policy at the time, and crypto was, I guess, a bit of a novelty for most policymakers, and until that sort of came along, and then it was kind of, what is this thing? This has a significant impact on our sort of existing monetary systems and monetary policy. Let's look at this very, very closely. I think a very long way off, potentially, if at all.
Interesting. Other questions, folks, for Jamie? Personal views or even OKX, or what
That's
else happened in Singapore?
view.
Okay, I'll go to Karen here.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, I was interested in your comment that CeFi and DeFi one day will be blended potentially. Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting view. So have you got any kind of time frame that you'd put onto that?
No, I think a lot of people are working really hard on this one. That's very hard to sort of put a time frame on. Maybe the next couple of years, like this space does move. Yeah, this space does move very quickly. Maybe the next couple of years you will. I mean, there's some. I mean, I meant to be working at OKX, but if you look at some of the guys at like Block Owner, for example, are doing, right? Like they're also trying to solve this. How do you access DeFi problem, right? I think there's a lot of people who are trying to solve this problem at once. I think, probably not too distant future.
Next question over here.
Right, maybe a little curly one for you here, but more about OKX. So they're both CeFi and they have DeFi functionalities / capabilities. In the event that, say, the SEC or the ASIC or any other securities regulator around the world comes to the CeFi arm of OKX and says, look, we've got questions, concerns, even accusations maybe about the activity that's happening on the DeFi arm, how is that addressed? And if the answer is, we'll comply, how is it DeFi?
So I guess this sort of goes back to my point on the spectrum, right? So, there are a lot of aspects to DeFi. Obviously, one of those is the ability to self-custody, but others are like the ability to transact freely and to sort of interact with a whole bunch of other protocols out there. And yeah, obviously, we are sort of towards the more centralized aspect of that, right? So I sort of described that whole how decentralized do you want to be, right? So do you want to be, running your own nodes in solar powered bunkers, or there's a lot of potential hypotheticals out there. So yeah, I guess for us, if that ever hypothetically comes, obviously we're open to having that conversation with whatever regulator comes along. I still think the ability to sort of self-custody is probably one of the most important ones that people, or at least I use DeFi for. And that element of self-custody, I mean, it's something that we still retain in the way that we built the product.
No, there's probably more questions, but we've got to get to the next presentation. So there is merch. So thank you, OKX. A few of you are wearing merch. Oh, look at that. So really great quality shirts, folks. Cool caps outside as well. Plug. But certainly if there's more questions, please feel free to talk to Jamie and the crew. Aaron's up the back up there. Wave, Aaron, just so people know who you are. There you go. Aaron at OKX as well. So yeah, please have a chat with the guys. Really interesting stuff. I mean, throw some great parties, so I know that. But obviously there's a lot of really interesting insights out of this, and there's more conversation to have. So, Jamie, thank you so much.
No worries. I think there's another slide. There you go.
Oh, yes.
Obligatory QR code.
Yeah. Get your phones out, scan the QR code. Is there a prize on that? What is it?
There is a whole. It goes to a link tree. So there's a couple of different things in there. We do more than throw good parties. We've just recently launched an AD order book. So scan and trade. And there is a 5% cashback sort of offer going on at the moment.
You heard it here, folks. Scan and trade. Let's go. All right. Thank you, JB. All right, up on stage next, we have a group called Undeclared Variable. Where are they? I hope they've dressed up. I really hope they have. Oh, they have! Oh! All right, come on down. Does one of you want to be here on the other side? Both there? All right, cool. You guys are going to present. I'm going to jump to the back to control this video, folks. So, you guys can just talk between each other and stuff. Tell us all about Undeclared Variable.
Cool.
Is it working?
I think so.
Am I on? Can you all hear me? Great. Howdy. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight. My name is Josephine. I am the co-founder of Calicu, which is a community of women in Web3, Metaverse, and AI. So some of our girls are here. Woo-hoo. The other hat that I wear is I'm the brand and operations manager at Undeclared Variable. I am just so excited. We have here our co-founder and managing director, Victor Vincula. Welcome, Victor. Victor's, I'm just going to give a little bit of a rundown because his reputation, skill set, and background is so impressive. Victor's early career began in photogrammetry, asset creation for visual and augmented reality, focused on technology visualization for biomechanical engineering. Then he honed his skills working with interactive media, animation, digital asset creation, and eventually became one of the key leaders at Giraffic X Lab, managing 3D for broadcast and virtual production. So welcome, Victor.
Thank you, Jose. Just like everyone, really hate when people have to tell what they do.
We've got a bit of a show and tell for everyone here, but we're going to dive into a little bit about who we are and what we do. So maybe go to the next slide. Who's Undeclared? We are a creative collective of artists who thrive on taking risks. I just want to say on the side, I love working with this crew because everyone is a top tier artist and they're just freaks of the industry. And I tell them that all the time. It's just so inspiring to be able to be surrounded by so many talented people. I know all of you work in startups and you work with really cool, awesome, innovative tech heads. These guys are like at the intersection of creative and tech. So it's bringing all of that to life. And yeah, I love it. Next slide. There's us. Hi. Next slide. Okay. Some of our legacy work in our portfolio includes projects for major clients like Fox Sports, Beijing Olympics, Dubai World Expo, no big deal, NFL teams, other live entertainment shows. Next. We provide end-to-end creative solutions for our clients. So very bespoke, premium quality content production. What is that? It sounds like a lot of fancy terms. What does it actually mean? How does it translate to work for clients? We thought we'd share an example. Next. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and so one of the services that we provide is the cinematic animation production. So when it comes to telling the story and then getting people attention to your brand or your product that you're about to launch, that's pretty much what we do. So for the project, we work with the company called Sentry, which owns Endpoint. They wanted to launch their brand and product, which is a gaming platform, which hosts a whole bunch of different crypto game, Axie Infinity, and other things. Think of it as a Steam for DeFi game. Right, so we work with them on the concept design, coming up with a storyboard for animation production, VFX production, and sound design. This is building up to their launch earlier this year, which basically break through all of their record in terms of the engagement with people. The video that we create is more than 700,000 people view on X and tons of reposts and comment, and that's basically open the floodgate for the people that join their platform, right? So without further ado, let's...
One sec, we'll switch over to the video.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I don't know how many of you have played Web3 games? Yeah. Do they look like that? I feel like they need to look like that, and more people might come and play them. Yeah. So, Victor, I just want to jump to a quick question because a lot of people might be looking at that and thinking now, okay, what magic button did you press? Can I just do that with AI? Surely I can like prompt it, magically make that happen. How does that happen?
So that's kind of question that we get a lot in terms of the production, how this thing came to be. So if anyone know a prompt that can create that, let me know. It would save us some work as well. So we do a lot of production where we kind of bridge the traditional production all the way to whatever tools coming in new. So the cinematic that you just saw that was built using Unreal Engine 5 with our team, the production duration was around 4 months to 6 months, around that. And then we coming up with the same base concept, custom build and creating everything from the ground up. And what we trying to do is to create an ecosystem where we be able to reuse some of these assets that can be used inside the game as well, since they're built inside the game engine, and have the response where we can expand this into an interactive universe with the client as well. And that's the kind of service that we do. So moving on to some of our other service. So we, other than cinematic animation, we also do world building. So with the technique that we use, we build to create like large scale environment work for digital twin works and tech visualization and architectural visualization. So this one, we built the smart city overview for Dubai Expo City. So we basically recreate the entire city for them to be able to showcase to other people what they're going to be. And that's the essentially what we do, right? We visualize, we give people selling the drink, basically. putting them in the position where they be able to visualize themselves in there. Right? So doesn't matter what we have, what age that you want to tell your audience. We know that your product is really awesome, and we know that you know that. How do you bring that across and be able to tell people and get them to understand, get them to feel the emotion, the understanding of, okay, we are part of something cool. We want to get on board. We want to be on your platform. We want to use your product, right? So media and entertainment, that's the field that we are in. We try to help bring that forward to be able to help you guys telling your story.
On that, so we've got a lot of people in the audience who are building really technical, complex things, building in crypto, blockchain. How would you approach those kind of businesses, startups? What kind of things could we offer?
I think that to create a media that can connect to people, to bring in something, visualizing it into something that is tangible, right? Because you can tell them how wonderful it is to be on the platform, to be on using your product. But if you be able to creating this environment that they will be in, creating this scenario that they're going to be immersive, that will be able to kind of reel them in, or be able to get them to experience even before they touching your product.
You and Ray have personally created some of the most iconic projects for mainstream clients, Fox Sports, NFL teams. Is there a favorite one or one that stands out in your mind?
I think the client that would like to work with the most, and people that usually trust us to be able to do so, usually a risk taker. They need to be on the forefront in the landscape, right? If you talk about the NFL, the Fox Sports, something like that, they're competing with other channels, competing with the ESPN, they're competing with Discovery Sport. And we work with all of those guys. And the things that they all need to do every season, every year, is they need to compete with each other. Right? We want to be in the position to help you compete. We want to be able to, okay, let's try the craziest idea no one has seen before. Because if you try to chase the trend, if you try to, okay, this is popular right now, try to do it, well, you're already too late, right? You're not going to get ahead if you don't take risks, if you don't dare to do something. We are those people, and we would like to help you be able to get to the #1 position.
For those who might have an idea or a vision, are there like ways that you would say the best way to kind of work with us would be?
Sure, everyone knows Joe's by now in this space, so yeah, to chat with her or to check out our website as well. Yeah, and I think before we go, we should have another reel as well on some other beyond stuff, because we don't just do all the linear or video cinematics. We also do custom application and all the interactive experience for a few different events all over the world as well. And I'll probably just explain what we do as well. So we do show visualization for a few different groups all around the world, a bunch of shows. So we build it digitally before the thing would be built for real. So artists like us will be able to go in and work, and then showcasing it to decision makers, right? Because you're not only showing it to the end user, you also wanted to show to someone who paid the bill, decision maker, government, investor, right? For them to be able to see it before it actually happens, before it actually they have to spend millions of dollars doing it. This will help everyone get on the same page. the way we work with the real-time engine, like Unreal, to be able to do live programming and then have the interactive system in place. So all this product is not just static things. Everything can be customized. Everything can be able to interact with. So not just from the pre-production, we also go over and then deliver the final experience with that people can interact with as well. So that's generate the with the people using your platform and also creating a lasting memory as well. A lot of this work is for virtual production. We did a lot of work with the company Jabz to create a virtual production and the live TV production for that one for the Winter Olympics 2 years ago. Thank you very much. Obligatory QR code for the next one.
Oh yeah, that's how to find us.
So yeah, feel free to reach out. We always love to chat with the project. We always love to learn about your product. It's always really fun to come up with the different way that can wow people. That's something that we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Well done, folks. Thank you so much. I know we've been working on whenever we could get Victor up. We've been talking about it for months now. Interesting by background, the company that was mentioned before, I think you mentioned Giraffic, yeah? So Giraffic, if you've ever seen anything that looks like augmented reality, whether it's the US elections or it's sports, primarily sports, Formula One to football to, what do you call it? What's the Aussie version of NASCAR? There you go. So Aussie, aren't I? But yeah, supercars, you have those 3D ones. They were doing the ones at Giraffic, and Victor was working there with the guys, like really powerful, clever stuff that they do, where you could just see someone walking around a virtual car. A virtual car could just be here and it's opened up, etc. So really cool stuff. So if you're building anything, it doesn't have to be gaming. Like if there's anything interesting, just come talk to the guys. And Josephine, running the Calico kind of group, and we've got like members here. There's a really great community out there. So thank you again. We're gonna get to if we can slip to the next slide, Chris. We got a visitor all the way from Melbourne up here. Kennedy, up on stage. Now I could ask you questions, or you could just like present and tell us when to kind of move through stuff. Is that
I think that's better. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gennady Volchik. I'm from Melbourne. I'm here to present to you Shping, and the utility of Shping coin is the rewards app. So it's not going to be too technical. It's probably going to be very easy considering the time of the day that you all guys tired. So it's going to be more of the consumer journey, something that you can all relate to and understand how the project works and the app works. So if we could go to the next slide. To understand the problem that we're trying to solve, I'll just share some stats with you. The retail market valued at $28 trillion. And brands, manufacturers get roughly 30 to 40% of that revenue, while the majority goes to retailers. So now if we go to next slide, if we look at the retail marketing size, it's 800 billion, and brands spending 60 to 80% of that amount, while the retailers is only spending 20 to 40. So as you can see, brands getting half the revenue and spending 2 to 3 times more than retailers. Let's go to the next slide. And again, Sorry, it has a lot of transitions. I'm not gonna have the flicker, so my apologies. So the reason why retailers can get away with such a low spend compared to brands is because they have direct access to the end consumers. And they're able to run a rewards program. You all guys probably familiar with Flybuys and Everyday Rewards, where retailer can see your insights on your shopping. They can reward you for your loyalty because they have direct interface to you. Where brands, unfortunately, always one step removed from the end consumers, and they traditionally can't run those programs, can't reward you for your loyalty, can't incentivize you to do anything specific. So what we've done at Shping, we've created a rewards program that connects consumer to the brand, enabling brands to reward you, incentivize you directly, bypassing all of the intermediates, such as retailers or social media. That's how they currently trying to get their message across to you. So if we can go to the next one. And again. And again. So what we've done, we've developed a database of all of the products. You guys probably familiar with this barcode that you see on a traditional products that on the products that you buy in the supermarkets. It's called Global Trade Item Number, or GTIN, is incorporated in this barcode. And that barcode is like an ID of the product type. So if you have a look at 2 bottles of Coke of the same size, it will have the same barcode because that represents a SKU or the type of the product. So we've partnered with GS1, the company that issues those barcodes, SKUvantage. If you can click the next one, number of industry bodies to put together a database of all of the products and create like a cloud version of each of those products. And then we've developed the interface for the brands. If we can go to the next one, where brands can also populate their product pages so that you as a consumer can scan the product barcode and interact with the content on that brand. If we can go to the next one. So now we host over 20 million products in our database, where you can simply scan the product barcode, find out the product pricing from different stores, see the ingredients, product reviews, and other interesting information on the product. Let's go to the next one. As a consumer, you are one of the biggest contributors to this database because you write product reviews, you upload product pictures, you could even add products that we don't have in our database. So if you scan the barcode, which is not yet in our database, you'll have an option to add that product in our database, as well as you can upload your purchase receipts. If we can go to the next one. So when you upload purchase receipts, as well as all the other activities you do within the app, you earn rewards. So essentially you get rewarded for every time you use the app because you're creating a lot of value for brands on the platform. So currently they're buying all of the insights and understanding about you as a consumer from other data houses and third parties platforms. It's a lot cheaper for them to pay you directly to get their message across to you rather than paying Facebook, for example, to deliver a message to you or to get the insights. So essentially you as a consumer, you get back cashback on every single purchase you make. So whenever you upload the receipt, you get something back for that. And that on the receipt is very valuable. Not only it helps brands to understand what you as a consumer also buying the same trip to shop, but also understand your behavior across retailers. So it's a single customer view, which is very important for the brands. We can go to the next one. So as a brand, you essentially get a single customer view of those who buy your product. You can see when someone who's been buying your product have switched to your competitor, or if someone from the competitor switched to your brand. You can run your own CRM where you can see every single person who joined your loyalty program, and you can run your own loyalty program within Shping, like Flybys do with their shoppers and everyday rewards are run by Woolworths. So it's essentially enables brands to be connected to the end consumer and do all of the cool and powerful marketing activities that they traditionally wouldn't have an ability to do. Let's go to the next one. So our tokenomics is very simple. So brands would reward you for writing reviews, uploading your receipts, engaging with that content. And then you as a consumer can redeem those coins. So you can convert them to cash via the exchange or move them to exchange to trade for other crypto. So when you sell your coins, you essentially create a supply. When brands buying those coins to pay you, they're creating demand. Let's go to the next one. We work with a number of large and small brands in Australia. So currently we're just in Australia. We do have plans to expand internationally, with the UK and New Zealand being our next market. And we work with a number of local brands who are using Shping to reward their end consumers and to incentivize loyalty and product education and so on. Let's go to the next one. And that's a small video that tells you more about the app, the utility, and you guys feel free to download the app. It's free and start earning Shping points while you shop.
Welcome to Shping, Australia's #1 rewards app. Imagine getting cashback rewards for every purchase you make. Here's how it works. Snap a photo of any receipt or upload it digitally to claim your cashback rewards. Groceries, apparel, restaurants, Uber, you name it. Shping rewards all brand interactions, including writing product reviews. Cash out your rewards or move them to your Coinbase wallet. Get Shping today and unlock rewards with every purchase.
Thank you. If I'm not sure if we have time for questions or we hear. Yep. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you guys have. All good. Thank you. Thanks again.
Well, I've got 3 mics. Anyway, there will be questions in the networking and stuff, but we just have to get on with the show. So next up on stage, right here, who's reaching for his bag? Oh, he's got the loyally move. You look very, very loyally there, sir. Jabz, up on stage. Do you want here? Do you want there? Where do you want to go? You prefer here? Okay. Which of the mics do you want to rant with? Oh, okay.
Yeah, all good. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm a bit more. I was normally very little dressed up, but I had to sue someone today, and we have to get dressed up to sue people. So this is me, GM. I was given a very broad kind of idea of anything I could present with, so it's probably not going to interest many of you. But given that we're talking about a lot of regulation, it's only right that me as a lawyer also put my 2 cents into the whole conversation. This is me. Everyone knows me as Jabz. I run a law firm up the road. That's my LinkedIn, where I post stuff about property and commercial lawyering stuff. That's my Twitter, where I post a lot more interesting MFA related stuff and crypto things. I also run a Web3 legal clinic as well, which is essentially builders in the community, whether in Australia or abroad, they get free legal advice. So it's been going well. And if you want to follow along, then these are the socials and websites. Been in crypto for a little bit, but enough about me. Let's get moving on to the next slide. Okay, so as a lawyer, it's only right that I give you a disclaimer before I start. We will be going through some hard-hitting truths today, and that's why this is up there. Yes, moving on. crypto regulation, exciting topic that we love to talk about here. You know, we have a lot of beers over that, but we have to. It is something that we do have to consider, given that I've been saying for a long time that this year is going to be the year of regulation, and it hasn't disappointed. We have so many regulations happening around the world that we probably have too many regulations than L2s at this stage, but we persevere. The first thing to remember is that with regulation, there is always some drawbacks to the whole situation. I have a what, how, and why question here for you to go through. But the biggest issue is that crypto essentially is meant to be a system that's created to work against the current system. So inherently, there are going to be difficulties when regulators and governments try to impose laws and rules along this space. And part of the reason is that we in this space, we are building direct peer-to-peer networks or projects, a lot of the times moving away from the CeFi that we mentioned before towards the DeFi. And regulations are essentially meant to regulate and deal with intermediaries, people in the middle, people that custody, people that make promises. That's what regulators really look to and enforce consumer protection. We also have obviously the global nature of crypto, the anon culture of crypto. All of that again makes regulating a lot more difficult. And the big conversation that's been happening in the last couple of years is, do current regulations apply to this digital assets fee, or should we be creating bespoke regulation? It goes without saying, my camp is we should be creating bespoke regulation, if any regulation at all. But we will see that a lot of jurisdictions actually are trying to apply their current frameworks of, you know, decades to centuries ago into the digital assets fee, you know, ASIC and SEC. But let's move on. Again, a lot of regulators don't have a clear purpose, unfortunately, from a personal and a professional perspective. We do hear a lot about consumer protection, AML, CTF, misleading deceptive conduct. But again, you know, case in point, FTX Australia did have an AFSL license. So, you know, how much consumer protection was there? Key questions that we need to consider. AML, you know, how effective is something like that when, you know, research shows that it's only really 1% as effective. So again, are we really, what is the essential end goal purpose when regulations are put forward? All right, moving on. Okay, so the topic I've chosen today is comparing Australian regulation to global regulation. Okay, mind you, there has been a few other things that have happened besides consultations, but the key bits that have happened over the last few years is that we have had a lot of consultations. We've made a lot of submissions, and that's about it. That's really what's happened in Australia. Now, not to say that there aren't good people and amazing people really trying to improve the situation. It isn't about that. We actually have a lot of good representatives, some in the audience. They are really trying to push the needle forward. But unfortunately, when we compare it with the global situation, not much has happened in Australia. Even though we do have a lot of talent, we have a lot of building happening locally. Unfortunately, a lot of that is going overseas. A lot of the building that I do see is, a lot of the questions that builders do come to me for is, where should I set up? And the unfortunate reality is I can't tell them that you should set up in Australia. And that's sucky, because a lot of people want to stay here. They want to keep building here. They want to improve the community here. But they are forced for a number of reasons, partly not to get sued, to go overseas. And that's the unfortunate situation we're dealing with. So a few key consultations that have happened. March 22, we had the first kind of major consultation on how should crypto be licensed. We had another one in last year as well, in October, and in Feb 23, we had a token mapping paper as well, which essentially gave the government a number of submissions on how the whole ecosystem looks at that current stage. Now, obviously the issue is the system itself moves very rapidly, as it was been mentioned before. So it's probably closer to being out of date, but it does give a general idea moving forward. All right, next slide. So this is how we compare globally with our regulation. Intern mocked up a bunch of memes, so bear with me. When we look at Australia, unfortunately, we like to say that we're having a lot of success and moving the needle forward. But compared to the globe, we're very, very far behind now. Not to say that we won't catch up or we can't catch up with sheer drive and whatnot, but the reality right now is that we are very far behind. We have jurisdictions like Japan, which have been having serious conversation and licensing since 2016. The UAE, which has set up a separate regulator altogether just to deal with digital assets. So for comparison, VARA, which is their virtual assets regulator, was set up in March 22 when we were doing our consultation, the first initial consultation in that sense. Singapore, which was mentioned earlier, they've well and truly passed their licensing regime. It's basically a conversation in the past, right? Where they've moved on. They've had a lot of Australian community actually go over there to both the UAE and Singapore. And even in the EU, we've had all the member nations finally agree to a proposal and come together, and that will be fully implemented by the end of the year. So when we look at what's happened globally, we really should not be patting ourselves on the back, unfortunately. So again, I did give the disclaimer, this was not an uplifting presentation. Okay, so it is important that we have this reality check when we continuously have this conversation that regulation is important for innovation. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword. Bad regulation can stifle innovation, but the lack of regulation as well, the uncertainty that comes with that for a lot of founders and teams, they just don't want that risk. If they're trying to build something that they want to, 2-5 years that's still inexistent, they just don't want to be watching over their shoulder to say, 3 years later, 5 years later, a regulator will come and sue them for not getting a license initially. So that's where having no regulation does become a hindrance to people that are building. Next slide, please. Then we have the other Australian trend that's been built. Yes, I'll pay my intern a bit more. Thought that was a good one as well. I did. The other issue that we faced, especially this year, which has become front and center, is that ASIC has taken a very regulation by enforcement. They've taken that really to heart. And as much as it is important to test regulation, it is also as important to make sure that the rules are clear for the people that are building things, right? It's unfortunately, a lot of the projects that were legitimately built obtained legal advice that from well-renowned firms, and then they fell foul of what ASIC thought a few years later, even after the products were closed, that they should be sued for and they should have had licenses for. And now obviously we're in the appeal jurisdiction, so it's still a watch this space, but it probably costs ASIC a lot more money to sue. I'm a lawyer, I know, than it would have cost them to actually build purpose-built regulation. And that's what I think a lot of the industry has been asking for. And unfortunately in Australia, we just haven't had that opportunity to be blessed with that. So yes, as we know, the SEC has had a similar approach the last few years, and it's sad to see that in Australia we're kind of following that trend. Next slide. So yes, very short and sweet. Australia is very far behind, unfortunately, when it comes to bespoke regulation. We as an industry are trying, but the ball is, it's not a one-player game, right? The regulators, as much as they're engaging and as much as they have other priorities, which I fully accept, and as much as it is difficult to regulate this space, we have not seen that drive to align ourselves from a global perspective. And that's very important. That's, in my personal view, that's probably a bit telling as well. But it is important that we keep pushing that conversation. It's not to say that I am here criticizing, right? As I said, there's a lot of amazing people doing a lot of good things, moving the needle forward. But it is a collective group approach. There is no, we have a strong communities. We have a lot of people here. We have a lot of people in other events, but it is something that I feel that builders in the space should keep front and center, and they should work to improve the conversation rather than just keep criticizing it as well. So reality check, but hopefully a little bit uplifting. Thank you. I think there was another slide. Was there another slide? I don't know. I can't remember. That's it. All good.
That'll be $500, folks. That was a lawyer. Dogecoin tokens. If I could get Tim Lee up on stage, please. We're going to talk about token everything. Do you want to be here? Do you want to be there? You do that? All right.
Okay. Right. I came back from Token 2049 on Sunday, and I've just about recovered right now. I just want to give you a bit of a takeaway from Token 2049, just as a quick sort of backdrop. Oh, next slide, please. Now, Singapore have got themselves organized. They put the Formula One at the end of Token 2049. That is a brilliant bit of tax planning. You know, for people who want to go to the Formula One, they go to a conference, happy days. And so the Formula One was right at the back end. Next slide, please. And obviously, you know, this year they changed the track, and it's become, it was amazing. But next slide, please. Now, it is crypto. The Token 2049 is the largest crypto conference in the world, and when you see 20,000 people in a conference for 2 days, it is insane. Absolutely insane. Next slide, please. So the actual data, 20,000 over that 2 days. Now you have to bear in mind, Token 2049 started the Friday before the weekend of the Formula One. It started 10 days prior to that. You had the Solana Breakpoint conference, the MemeCon conference. There was an Ethereum conference. There were AI conferences all around Singapore, all because the Formula One is there. It was the taxi drivers that told me that they were really pissed off that they had all these conferences around because they couldn't get around, and their fares were just trapped everywhere, and people weren't taking taxis. So it was them that was really pissed off. Next slide, please. Hotel prices 3 times the price. It was ridiculous. And if you booked a last-minute hotel, you literally had a shoebox, and you'd be paying about $1,000 a week for that. It was absolutely insane. Next slide, please. So these were the realities that actually happened. It was 30 degrees centigrade, 80% humidity. Roads were closed all over Singapore. The taxis imposed an $8 surcharge, actually mandated by the government. Everybody went on the MRT. How many of you have been to Singapore? How many of you have used the MRT? How many of you have gone down and down and down, and you're underground, and it says, the next train's in 2 minutes, but you've got to walk 8 minutes to get to the train. It's absolutely insane. And Google Maps don't work in Singapore. It's crazy. It sort of says go left, and you go left, and you're actually supposed to go right. And you have, because we've got all these skyscrapers, you can't see the sun because it's just, just that sort of quagmire of humidity. It was an absolute nightmare. So you're walking everywhere and getting lost and sweaty. I've just about cleaned up now, so don't smell my underarms. That's the most important thing. Next slide, please. Now, in addition to Token 49, there were 832 side events and parties. So you go to a side event, and there'd be maybe 100 people at the best ones. You go to the parties, there's 3,500 people. It was absolutely insane. I only bought 1 beer for the entire week, and that was $28 for a pint of Guinness. 1 pint of Guinness. It's expensive. It's and hardly bought any food. You could just survive on all the freebies that were actually coming out. It was just absolutely crazy. Next slide, please. But I mean, yeah, and there was some craziness as well. I mean, we've already sort of mentioned about Iggy doing her bit, where she wanted to create a flash mob of dancers in business suits, but they said no, it's going to go viral, and then people won't talk about other serious things at the conference, like Vitalik doing karaoke, singing. Now, apparently, he has a girlfriend now, so the price of Ethereum might well go down to zero. Not financial advice, of course, right? But it's just, there's some crazy crap that was going on. Next slide, please. I mean, we were actually there because we launched our first client, our first paying client, which we're delighted for, because we're actually transforming airdrops and staking into Play to Earn Ventures and our 3.3 million seed round. And we were there for business. So I had to sweat through the 30 degrees, the 80% humidity. You have to pace yourself. If you get too pissed in the evening, you're done for the rest of the day. You can't meet up with investors. There were so many GameFi side events that you could just go there and you'd see investors all the time. So if you've got a project and even thinking about raising money, you've got to be at this place next year, 100%. It was just every niche was covered by these side events, and it'd be free beer, free food, and free merch. Be crazy. And the end result from that, I'll just give you a bit of some data. Next point, please. So I actually counted from all the Telegram interactions. I did 172 pitches, 63 submissions of pitch decks, and so far since Sunday, 3 major VCs have set up internal Telegram channels with us, which is fantastic. And one's going to due diligence next week, which just shows if you actually put the time in, it can make it work. So next, final slide. I'll give you the final slide. It's all right, Mark. We'll be done in a second. Average of 5 hours sleep a night. No voice at the end of 9 days. Sore ankles and exhausted. Sweaty and frustrated. Would I do it again? Final slide. Bring it on. You guys have got to get there next year. Dubai is in March, April next year. That'll be the same sort of thing. But if you've got anything to do with crypto, you've got to be there. Just my thoughts.
Woo! All right. Thank you, Tim. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hove. All right, one sec. Chris got that joke. Thanks, Chris. Okay. Final thing, and then we're going to get back to networking. Geez, what a varied set of different projects, and talks. From the centralized exchange stuff to really interesting GameFi stuff to, what's going on in terms of regulation and what other people are doing from around the world. I think, whether it's Shping or it's like the people like building this like next generation of just how we got on board with things and like getting great insights there from like Token. I mean, the one thing that people don't talk about is the weather. I was there last year, and by the second day, I was just making sure I carried spare clothes, not just a shirt, but like everything, spare pants, spare underwear, etc., because it was hot, right? So you really have to just prepare yourself for some of these places. We're really lucky in Australia. We don't get to that kind of stuff. But last thing that I think is interesting is, I don't know if you guys have heard of Blockchain Australia. They rebranded, renamed. They're now Digital Economy Council of Australia because it is more about bridging the gap between what is going on. It's not just the blockchain tech, but it's the future of commerce. It's the future of finance. It's the digital economy, right? That should be their slogan, trademark by Mark. You can watch, they had a day of 15 different panels talking about regulation in other countries. This was only a few weeks ago. I think it was just like last month. From India to the Philippines to Singapore to Hong Kong to Europe, the US, what's going on here in terms of compliance, etc. Really interesting talks, a lot of value there. We just go to the next slide, Chris. We used our AI tool. This is free to use. You can subscribe to it, psych.ai. It's something else that when I wear my other hat building in this space, you'll see something at the end, but we've got an AI tool that you can use for this. We used it on the 15 different, like these are digital sticky notes. So imagine unlike like a conversation thread where you just have to have it all in one, you can just have different sticky notes of ideas and you can play around with that. But we're helping Deca write an article. So just some high level, because I can't go into the full report. But if you go to the next slide, some high level kind of points from it.
there is this need for clarity around regulation. And although this was weeks ago, it is still something that is playing out here. And the blockchain community, we need to advocate for that clear and consistent regulations to foster innovation. Ironically, AI is going through this in Australia right now. One of the departments is asking for AI guardrails, and another in terms of Department of Healthcare and Health and Aged Care, they're also asking, well, what kind of guardrails should we have around AI? And so the AI space is coming to blockchain because they're like, well, how do we actually do these government submissions and stuff? Because you guys are so used to it. Uncertainty issues are definitely a thing as well, because there are challenges, as Jabz pointed out, from regulatory uncertainty, and we've seen it in the news. We saw it with the AFR stuff. So whether it's overseas and here, because this was a global roundtable of talks, right? So definitely more focused on what's going on overseas, the SEC, etc. But even in India and Singapore and others, like some places have it sorted out a little bit more than others, but really interesting to see where we fit. An interesting takeaway from the talks at the AFR Crypto Summit on Monday. Some people on stage, and I can't remember who, were talking about how Australia's all right, we're middle of the pack. And some people in the audience were like, well, we've never been middle of the pack. We've always been at the forefront of crypto innovation. Why have we fallen back, and why are we okay with that? We should not be. We don't want to stifle innovation. We don't want to break the law, but we also want to make sure that we progress forward. So a lot of great insights all around that today. I take these transcripts from everyone that spoke, and we actually use the AI to come up with some key interesting kind of insights. You can do the same when it goes out on YouTube. It's actually on YouTube right now, so you can rewatch some of this stuff when you get home. And then global coordination is important. It's interesting from the blockchain space that we talk about how do we cooperate to avoid that regulatory arbitrage where one country's rules might be weaker, so you just do a lot of stuff there until it doesn't work anymore. I saw a whole lot of people going to Portugal, for example, to do their crypto development because it was working at the time, and then that went away, that arbitrage went away. And so global coordination is really important, really interesting. Next one, I think we go to some of the opportunities. Chris, slide. Chris. Oh, is that it? Is there another slide there? I guess not. Anyway, the greatest thing about all of this is the networking. If you've got any questions, if it was your first time and you're like, what the heck was that? Don't worry. We'll run this whole transcript through and just ask the AI, tell it to me like I'm 5, and it will explain it. It'll go, crypto good, regulation needed, stifling innovation not so good. So in any case, if there's any questions that you have, we'll be out there. Thank you so much for coming. There's a few pizzas outside still, so go ahead.